Hello, hello. Hey, BL. Quiet, but I think it looks like it's setting up. Get ready for that. Hi, Vel. How you doing? Hey, Spiros. Right, BL. Painfully quiet, but we did have some activity in the Discord channel. Share that. Hey, Jambi. Hey, Piano to Simplest. How you doing? Hey, Diana. Good morning. Hey, JM. Enka. How are you doing? Hope you're all well. Just found out. You again. Everyone's here bright and early. It's on time. So good to see all of you. For a couple of minutes before we get started. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, any trades you got into, I don't think you would have gotten into many trades from yesterday through to today, but if you have any trades, do let me know. Sound is might be because it's such a quiet time. Anchor, maybe try and reload or something. BL says the sound is good. BL says the sound is okay. Yeah, really can hear clearly. Good. If you're having some issues with the sound, then time can click that reload button and then try that again. Hi Ida, I'm doing very well. Good. Okay. I think just then I was just a little bit too excited, shouting away in the office. So I'll settle down. I'll settle. How's everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Nick says the sound is all good here. Very good. Thank you. And just a quick reminder, everyone, the link is there. If you haven't already, do join the Discord channel. How's everyone on TradingView doing? Say hi. If you're watching on TradingView, drop a message, say hi, let me know that you're here. Get started in 2 minutes. Hey Jordan, how are you doing? So we're getting a few new viewers on YouTube. So it's good to see. Good to see you guys joining us. Okay, so in the meantime, while we give it that 1 more minute, if you're new to the session, same drill, drop a message, say hi, let me know that you're here, let me know where you're joining us from. If you haven't already, the link is there for the Discord channel. Do make sure you click on the link, join the Discord channel. We have a lot more discussions in different channels there. And if you can help me out massively, click on that like and subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube, thumbs up button there, that subscribe button. I think turn on notifications somehow as well. If you are on TradingView, click that little rocket ship button, and if you're on trading.live, click on that and happy button. Right? Hey Phantom, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey Lee Frank. Thanks Bridget. Right? And if you have any questions at any point in time, do put it into the chat. Let me know. Looks like the chat isn't lagging anymore. I certainly hope it's not. It might be lagging. It might feel like it's lagging later on because I might be looking at the charts, not at the chat too much. But like it's working okay now. Hey, Evans from Nairobi, Kenya. Good to have you with us. How are you doing? Alrighty, so let's get started. The daily market analysis. We do this almost every day. GMT plus 8, where I'm streaming on YouTube. I'm streaming on TradingView, Trading.live, and if you have any other suggestions of where I should be on, do put it into the chat and let me know. During this market analysis, what I do, I look at the fundamentals into what has happened, what's coming up with the news. We look at the technicals in terms of where price is, combine all that together, look for some possible trade setups. These are all done on the H1 time frame because we are back tomorrow again, the day after every day, to update you on what has happened. So this is really my watch list, my analysis, looking at the trade setups on the H1 time frame. Okay, so if you do have any questions, put it into the chat. Let me know. If you haven't already, join the Discord channel, smash that like and subscribe button. Hey Lainey, how are you doing? Good morning. Hey Goju, I watched your session yesterday on YouTube. Also joined Discord. Thank you, Phantom. Good to have you. Val going on a holiday to visit abroad. No problem. Not going to trade today, so my holiday session starts this session. Fantastic. Hey, we are still going to be here doing a live stream. So Val, you can always check back. You want to keep keep a handle on the markets, just to not feel too lost. Actually, that brings up a very good point. What happens after take some time away from the markets, right? It could very well be you're working, and then work becomes too busy. You end up having what seems to be a day, 2 days becomes a week or 2 weeks away from the markets. Or if you are traveling, going on a holiday, a couple of days to a week or 2 weeks on holidays. What happens when you come back to or comes back to your trades? My process is pretty much for the first few days to a week, I don't usually end up entering trades. So after a short break, I come back to the markets, I will spend some time reading the news of what has happened recently, and then after that, look at prices in terms of where it is. Look to check whether I need to revise my support resistance levels, how price has been moving, check in terms of where it is in relation to the overall scheme of things. Has it gone to a new high or a new low? I'll check all that, get a good handle of that, and then get a feel of how price is moving from that point onwards before I start entering any trades. All right, so one common thing that I've seen over the years of coaching many individuals like yourselves is that work or holiday or family time comes in, spend some time away from the markets. Don't rush straight back into it. Don't rush straight back into it because you do lose a little bit of touch, spend some time away. Okay, so good thing is we do have these sessions recorded on or uploaded, recorded on YouTube, so you can always check back to get a quick update as well. That's for Val, and also for anyone else who is going away, spending some time away from charts. That's a bit of a process of how to get back to the swing of things. But then again, Val, do enjoy your holiday. With that said, a quick disclaimer: any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. So please do your own due diligence, because the content of the webinar is not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product. Please consider your leverage, your risk, and your overall emotions and psychology, because your objectives, financial situation, and has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Alrighty. With that said, let's get straight into it. You're most welcome there, Vel. So with that, yesterday spoke about this. Not a lot of news, not a lot of things to look at. So in terms of fundamentals and terms of news, nothing to pay particular attention to. Today, again, pretty much the same thing, right? Pretty much the same thing. The BOJ with the core CPI year on year was 3%. Expected a small drop, 2.9. Came out higher at a 3.3%. With that, we actually saw a little bit of strength on the yen, but that's also driven by the way the dollar index was moving. And then you can see not much else for today. We do have the BRICS summit. Then existing home sales, not too concerned, nothing much else. All right, all through to tomorrow, where we do have a whole bunch of PMI, Purchasing Managers Index data to be released for manufacturing and services for the Eurozone, right? This is all the Eurozone. For the UK, right? Manufacturing and services PMI, and also for the US. Typically, PMI numbers do have an impact on prices. However, in recent times, what I've seen is that the theme of what they focus on has moved a little bit. So I don't expect this PMI numbers to do too much in terms of price volatility. It does coincide quite nicely with our session tomorrow at 3. So I'll tell you more about that tomorrow during our session. Then not much else all the way through to the Jackson Hole Symposium. Like we were saying yesterday, and a couple of you have indicated in the Discord channel, hey, Jackson Hole Symposium is coming up. Not going to trade. I don't think it's a scenario where you shouldn't trade because of the Jackson Hole Symposium coming up, but it's really just preparing, identifying the key levels that you could get into. If it doesn't trigger, fair enough. If it does trigger, a setup is just another setup. So you could take that setup as it comes around. Okay, hope that makes sense to you. So in terms of fundamentals, in terms of the news, I don't have too much to pay attention to at this point. Early tomorrow morning, we do have a bunch of FOMC members speaking. Fireside chat about youth employment, Fed listens event by Fed Reserve Bank of Chicago. Okay, I don't think it will be huge price movers either. There's a retail sales number for Kiwi from minus 1.4 to minus 0.4. Might see some movements there, but not particularly on that either. That's a quarter-on-quarter number. 24th of May, we'll check that. Okay, so in terms of the news, relatively clear skies, waiting for a breakout. We could continue with the overall or the short-term trend that we have been seeing on the markets so far. Check that. Okay, so now looking at the charts. Hey Nick, how are you doing? Hey Christina, good to see you. All right, so now on the dollar index, yesterday we were saying that it's going to trade slightly towards that 103.15 and consolidate along that support. Came down, it did come down to 103.15, did not really consolidate. In fact, it did bounce back up before now pushing back down again. So it remained within this range of 103.15 and 103.50. Okay, right now it's pretty much the same view that we are. I'll take this line away. We are seeing the dollar index trading lower, and it's somewhat encouraging that we see it breaking below this 23.6 pip retracement level. Right, we see it breaking below this level. at this hour. So my thought process here is, now that it's breaking 23 point, or it's breaking 23.6, coming to test this trend line. Now it's whether it's going to break this trend line and head down towards 102.80 with a brief hesitation about 102.90, 102.90. Check my 50% level. Okay, so it could do something like this. So I'm looking for it to break the trend line, to come down towards the 102.80 level. We do have that 50 at 102.70, so it's in between these two range. So what I'm looking at is that it will come and sit along this point. Why I don't think it's going to break all the way to the downside is because there's no big news drivers that should cause it to break too significantly. Okay, so it hasn't broken yet, so it could also very well come down here, bounce back up again. So the question is, what happens at that trend line? Generally, I'm still looking for it to trade lower. Hey Kelvin, how you doing? Hey Mohammed. Hi Angel Case. So on the dollar index, today is the 22nd of August. The dollar index, I'll be looking for a reaction long upward trend line. If broken, could trade down to 102.8. Right? So does that make sense? Generally looking for that downward push onto the dollar index, but it does need to break that trend line first. Hey Ismat, how you doing? I would say I'm looking for a reaction along this point. It could break down towards that 102.8 level. So with that, again, anticipating that downside, further downside on the dollar index, that's going to paint the buyers across the board for the other currency pairs. Talk about Aussie shortly. The Kiwi dollar, right? We actually did have a trend for counter trend and the trend following scenario, which we updated in the group. It did not it did not come down to trigger our trade. So it did not close below this 0.59 level. So that trade did not trigger, and it's pushing back up. So it's formed a very nice, sorry, my throat is going today. So it's formed a nice bit of a double bottom here, and it's pushing back up. So now the question is pretty much the same question we had yesterday, is how high can this bounce go? Right? How high can this bounce go? I'm checking this in terms of checking my trend line. Right? Although I looked at it yesterday, I'm just trying to make sure that it's still valid. If we took the tails like that, so this is taking the bodies, which we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? There we go. If I took the tails of this, catch this point here, come very close, and then again at this point, then you would see that the trend line coincides quite nicely with the resistance level. Okay, with the resistance level. So what you should also notice here is that if the dollar index does go from 103, break that trend line down towards 102.80, it is a drop, but it's not a big significant drop, right? Unless it breaks below this point, then we might see a lot of downside potential, possibly down to 102.50. But I think that it could sit at the support So I'm anticipating that the Kiwi dollar could come up towards this resistance level here, right? And if it fails to break above this resistance level, which coincides with that trend line, then I would be looking for a rejection, right? About 0.5975, a very tight stop loss here, no more than 25 pips, so 20 to 25, and a take profit of down to 60, almost 70 pips to the downside. Okay, so you could be looking at a 25 pip to 70 pip to the downside. That's if what I'm looking for is test, reject, and turn back down. Okay, so that's on failure to break above, then we could that push back down on dollar. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Do let me know. Okay, so we could be looking to sell the Kiwi 5975 25 to 70. 5975 5. Fantastic. Thanks, Jordan. Read your mind. I read your charts actually. Acted and read your charts. Thank you, BL. So 5975, stop loss 25, take profit 70. Yeah, I'll be looking for that. Okay, so we're looking at the dollar weakness, pushing it up. Consolidating, we're looking for the Kiwi dollar to push back down. If it does break up, then we might have a big counter trend trade up, but we can update you on the Discord channel for that. Then onto the Aussie. Look at that. Right, I can tell you I did not get into this trade. I didn't catch this move, busy with a lot of other things. But on the Aussie dollar, we were yesterday looking to buy from about 6415. Stop loss came very close to hitting a stop. Right, we had our stop loss at 30 pips, came very close before bouncing back up. If you did get into that trade, you would have come very close to stop loss, but it would be in profit right now. Okay, so I'll take that away. That would have worked out reasonably. You'll be about 20, almost 30 pips up. Now, very similar to the Kiwi dollar is that could be looking for it to test that resistance level. Okay, and I'll give you an alternate scenario here. Now that it's very clearly broken that trend line, check. Okay, we have that just based on that tail. Look, the body's definitely broken. We'll be looking at that. What I would say is that thinking about it, you know, on this Kiwi dollar, we're looking at it to push up and possibly reject. What you could be looking at here on the Aussie, that if it does continue pushing higher and it does break above that resistance level, right? Then we could be looking for a buying opportunity 6475. So just breaking above this previous high. Stop loss tight 20 pips. Take profit. Continuation to the upside about almost 55 pips to the upside. So I'm looking at this as continual dollar weakness. Possibly even if it does break down towards beyond that 102.70 level or more downside, then we could see the Aussie dollar push up a lot stronger. Okay, then if I would check this level, yep, you could see that if it does push up, to this point, that looks a bit okay. If it does push up to this point, it would be breaking above 38.2. 50 is quite close. We could look at it coming towards that 61.8. Okay, so I would be looking for that break above 38.2, above that resistance level, above that previous high, and then we could see it trade up towards the next resistance about 50 pips would be 20 to 50, I would say. Although we have it at about 55, you could be targeting about 50. Okay, I'll be happy with that. Like this. On the smaller range, downward range, breaking above 61.8, clear to the upside. So that works in both the retracement levels. You can see that if it does break above 64465, would be breaking above that confluence of 61.8 and 38.2. Okay. So 6475 20 50. Aussie looking to buy 0.6475, stop loss 20, take profit 50 to the upside. Okay, so this is where I would have that scenario planning between the Aussie and the Kiwi, because I would be looking at Kiwi sell is if the dollar does come down slightly before maybe bouncing back up or sitting there and Kiwi dollar continues to weaken. While the Aussie, we were looking to buy it up, a continuation of the recent move with that dollar weakness on. It has been running in a bit of a wedge for a while. We're expecting down trending trend line as well as a support. Don't think there a positive, possible negative reaction on the Aussie dollar. So the question is really what happens at this resistance level. The way it's found the support along this level, right? The way it's found the support along this area here, I think that we're possibly looking at some retracement back up. Maybe a bit of a deeper retracement before a continuation back down. I do still consider the Aussie dollar in that big downward push, right? So I'm looking at this as a retracement, a strong retracement before I push back down again. Quite similar to what we saw here, right? Quite similar to what we saw here on early August, where found a bit of a support. We saw it push back up for turning back down again, and also something like this in July, where we saw it find a bit of a support, strong retracement back up before continuing back down again. Okay, I hope I answered your question there, Jordan. Then on to the US yen, right? Did not drop. I'll take away intervention, so now done and dusted. So it did not drop down and trigger that sell, so we can take that away. The frustrating thing here for the US yen is that, you're most welcome there, Jordan. It is that it is in the middle of this support and resistance level, right? It's in the middle of those two levels, and could also be at that 38.2 level right now. I can take this away, so relevant. This point, dollar weakness to the downside is going to push the US yen lower. I don't want to, I would say I wouldn't do a trade here. I wouldn't do a medium-term trade here because I would be hard-pressed to find a good risk reward level, right? So you might have 70 pips as a profit, as a maximum profit level, but your stop loss reasonably should be about 50 pips. And that's possibly not going to be worth the risk on the US yen, just because we've seen it really spike and fluctuate quite rapidly. So with this, what I'm actually more tempted to do on the US yen, just looking at the bigger picture, moment, like that. Right, down. You have a bit of a level there. Okay, I think that if the dollar does continue pushing lower, which it looks like based on current price action, we could be looking for this trade down, right? Not the most ideal setup. So you could trade to the downside. I would say that maybe breaks below this trend line, which would be that 50% level, could come lower. 145.6, 55 pips downside, height stop loss. This is a bit speculative of 20 pips. Okay, I would do that. Right. So the reason behind this is that we have seen the yen push up, test 146.50, come back down again, and then now it's formed a lower high. Right. This is the high. This is a lower high, so it's formed a lower high, pushing lower, dollar index dropping. It does break below 50% on pip retracement and that bullish trend line, and we could look to get in. A bit speculative at 145.60, 20 pip stop loss down towards the support at 6. Okay, so 145, 45. Stop loss, take profit. What I've also I was reviewing the analysis that we've been doing is that I do tend to have been a bit too cautious at setting our levels a little bit too far away. So sometimes it doesn't trigger. This point, now I'm looking at maybe something nearer what we can trigger on. JMB says, yesterday you suggested a sell at 144.78 after break the support. Why not today? So yes, a day 144.8. Yeah, about there. That will be a continuation. That will be a continuation. So what I'll be looking for, in fact, it's retracing right now, is that yesterday we're right at this point here. Right, we're right at this point here. Very similar level. At that point, thinking that we give it a bit more space to break before we trade lower, but for it to get from this point, where were we? So we were here yesterday, right? I was looking for it to go down towards 144.80 for selling down. So there's a bit of a space, not a big space from here to break that support. At this point, why I wouldn't say look for that sell there, because there's a lot of distance to cover, right? There's a lot of distance to cover before that entry could happen. So how I would plan this is, if this does come down, break that trend line, this could be your first trade. You would get out there. Then if it does break, because you see the last time it bounced off this level, if it does break that support, then you could have another one, which was what we spoke about yesterday, 144.80, about there. You're looking at a 25, 30 pip stop loss and further to the downside. Okay, so I'll break this up into sections just because there's a bit too much space to wait for that sell. Fantastic, thanks JMB. So that's the view for the yen, for the US yen, which might take a little bit longer to play out, despite the dollar index really pushing lower right now within an hour. Okay. Then, Angel Case, how are you doing? Then on to the pound dollar. Yesterday we were saying look for it to come up, test that resistance, or trading back down. It's gone up. It took a lot longer than we expected. It's gone up to that resistance level. I don't think it'd be reasonable to look for it to trade back down because of the way the dollar index is moving. In fact, I do really anticipate that it could break within the hour by the end of this session, right? So with that, I wouldn't be looking for it to reject this level anymore. I would be thinking, could it break up? Could it continue to the upside, driven higher by the dollar weakness in the dollar index? The thing that I'm cautious of is this spike here, right? Is this spike here? We are seeing this push up, so that's reasonable. Okay, and then I would test these points, and you would notice that it is breaking above for this previous move. It is breaking above that 61.8 level. Okay, so what I would think here is that if the dollar does continue to weaken, and I don't see why it should do massive weakening, maybe for today, and then tomorrow I think it might change a little bit. Could see a continuation. This is very similar to what we saw on the Aussie dollar. I would say above 1.2810. So I'm just trying to factor in that point, 1.2810. The take profit would be about 60 pips. Stop loss could be at most 30 pips for 1:2 to the upside on the pound dollar. Okay. Okay. So look for it to close. It's not ready yet. It needs to close above that resistance to signal a break. And then it needs to continue up, close above 1.2810. A stop loss of 30 and take profit of 60. A reasonable trade to the upside on the pound dollar. So I'll be looking to buy 1.2810, stop loss 30, take profit 60. Okay. Yeah, we're looking at some dollar weakness coming around. That's fair. Okay, good. Then onto the euro dollar. I know Val has a buy at about that point, right? So we were looking for it to test and reject It did test a bit early in the middle and then rejected slightly before pushing back up again. Did not trade all the way down. From memory, I think Bell got in at about either this candle or this candle here. Right, either of these candles, and closed out a bit early on the live account, but I think the demo account is still running. So that's proving the method does work. So good job there. And blessing is not an inverted head and shoulder on the pound dollar. Let's have that. I think what you're referring to is shoulder, head, shoulder with neckline about that point there. Yes, not a perfect. I wouldn't say it's a perfect head and shoulder because there is that noise in the middle here. Or what we can say is a skewed head and shoulder that way. The neckline, so you could have another reason as that being an inverted head and shoulder now that it's breaking above that neckline. So it's additional confluence that we could see a further push to the upside. And sometimes how I look at this is that range from the shoulder up. If I measure that as a level, we could be looking at somewhere along that line to the upside. Whole range. Head all the way to the neckline, which could be even a bit higher than looking at that kind of somewhat reasonable. Now with that, going back to the euro dollar, picking up, I forgot my train of thoughts. Upward trend line, breaking above that resistance. I'm just going to be a bit cautious of trying to say that we're going to see massive dollar it does need to break above this point, or we could see straight up. That would make sense. Okay. Why I'm hesitating is because I do think that it's could trade higher. I just don't see why it would be reasonable to think that euro dollar could trade up that 100 pips. At this point, no reason why it could go up to that 100. That's why I'm looking into where it could get to. This level, I'm thinking 1.1. Oh, that's a round number. Okay. So what I'm looking for here is for it to close above 38.2 and that previous high there, so 1.0940. Straight up, I think that 61.8 is there, but it's close to that previous high. So we could look at a 60 pip take profit, 5 pip stop loss would be reasonable for that push up. Okay, I'll be happy with that reasoning. Bell's entry was 1.0885. Yep, I had it right there. Yeah, so I remember your trade from yesterday, 1.0885. It is running very nicely. Might head towards 1.0950. Does take time. Yeah, I think that this round number of 1.1 might be a good, might attract it towards level, right? You see it breaking up right now. maybe it's going to retrace, because if it does close along this level or slightly higher, it'll retrace back before possibly up again. Yep. Bollinger there providing some. So 1.0940, stop loss 25, take profit. Again, we've pretty much switched everything from yesterday, where yesterday we were looking at a lot of sell, today we're looking at a lot of buys. This could just stay a bit flexible or more short term, because the way the dollar index behaves is going to influence a lot of pretty much across the board for the currency, okay, especially with no major news. Look at that, 15 minutes for it to break that trend line. Then onto the US Swiss franc, I will maintain the same view. Took a lot longer than we expected for it to break that trend line. Broke early this morning, and it slowly gravitated down towards that entry level. I think we might see a bit of a bounce or consolidation along this level, but still looking for it to push lower. So I would hold this view at 0.8775, stop loss 30. It could even end up a bit lower at 25. 30.25 is not going to make big there. Then the take profit down towards that support at 5. Again, I would say that there will be several levels that you might want to, you would consider closing out a little bit earlier as well, right? For example, at that at 61 point. So you could be looking at a 1:1. Best case, 1:0.5. So I'll only change this slightly to make this a 75 pip profit. Just because it's taken that time to go down, I think that might see a little bit of a bigger push downside. Like how the dollar index is. Might be a little bit quick. Might find this as a bit of a support, retrace a bit before pushing down again. Don't feel like you have to rush into this for now, this time. Okay, and then onto the US CAD, broke down, bounced back up, would have hit stop loss on this one. So this would have been a losing trade, but I look at this as a possible re-entry level. Checking levels. Fine, if I did catch one. Break 1.8. Break that trend line. So what we're looking at here is for it to break that trend line and that downside. I'll move it a little bit lower, so 1.3515. Stop loss height at about 25, take profit down to that 50 level. Then in the best case, you have a 1:1, very similar to the Swiss franc. Best case 1:1, no, middle case 1:1, best case 1:2 to the downside, given that it breaks that trend line. Okay, that. Yep, 1.3515, stop loss 25, take profit 1.3515. 515. Stop loss 25. Take profit. Okay. Again, quick reminder, if you find this useful, do help me out. Click that like and subscribe button on YouTube, on TradingView, on trading.live, wherever you are. And make sure you join the Discord channel if you haven't already. Jordan just said I had a very small trade that was triggered on US CAD 130, 1.5, stop loss 10, take 30. Back to that. Good question there, Jordan. So 135, 130, 1.35, not 1.5. So I think you're looking at that trade there. Stop loss was 10. So they've hit your stop loss. Take profit was about there. So felt like it might find resistance, find support at 1.5. Trade. Is that a small buy or a small sell? I'm thinking you mean small buy trade, Jordan. Is that a buy? So I think it was. If it was a buy, it would have considered small support, found support. 1.350 stop loss 10. Oh, okay. All right, all right. That makes sense now. 1.353. So 1.35 would be about there. Stop loss 10. Profit 30 at 1.5 on support. That would have been in a little bit. If you got in there, that would have been a good, reasonable trade. Coincided with 61.8. If we, I'm not going to try and cover up the charts, but if we looked at it, I think your stop loss your take profit was reasonable, given that it would have found that equal low there with the reasoning of 1.35 as round number support level. That all makes sense. I think it was a good trade. It was good setup, good quick setup, very tight stop loss, good trade, downside. And it's really just about it breaking this level and then trading down to this level, just shifting it slightly to the right. No worries, John. Okay, hope that makes sense. Then now on gold, right? Was expecting it to bounce, test, and hit lower. It didn't. It actually broke that trend line because of the way the dollar index was moving. It broke higher. Now again, anticipating that dollar weakness continue. This resistance is now a support. And if it does break above this point, 1904, right? If it breaks above 1904, it trade up towards 1914. Breaks above 1904, we could see trade up to 1914. I think that because the way we're looking at the dollar, look at it bounce slightly along that trend line, not confirmed that we're going to see a big down or the medium downside yet. So I think that a small target on the smallish target on gold towards that resistance level of 90. Okay, so I would say that gold, we're looking for a continuation, brief continuation above 1904, good trade up to 90. There we have it. Have it, right? No worries. You're most welcome there, Jordan. Then with that, we look at the pound yen. In pound yen, with the way the yen is moving, right? Anticipating the downward push, pound dollar pushing higher, looking like setting up quite nice. I would say pound yen now looking like it's going to consolidate because yen pulling to the downside, pound pushing higher. We've seen that impact already. Seems to be forming a bit of a forming that consolidation here. That previous trade did not trigger. I would say that as much as it could push higher, I would be interested to see a double top form for a push back down on a pound yen. So first levels would possibly 185. Stop loss tight at about 30 pips. Take profit could come down to 70 pips to the downside. Just looking for that double top back down towards trend line before possibly back up again. So a double top to trace or to correct down again. Hope that answers your question there, Loyalty family. And hi, FX Chief Priest, how are you doing? Okay, so with that said, what we have right now is a bit of waiting to do for the dollar index to break that level before we do see the setups come into play. Right, everything is setting up, it's getting close, but not ready right now. Not ready right now. US Swiss franc just tracing, so not ready as well. So with that 20 pip more to go before we do the setup speed triggered. Okay. Very good, PM. Very good. Okay. So with that said, the link is there on Discord. Do make sure you join the Discord channel. If you haven't already, do click that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Let's chat more on Discord. If not, I will see you tomorrow, 3 p.m. GMT +8. Same. Take care now. Bye.